Hello guys, in this video I'm going to be showing you some different Dark Age tips. Before I start, let me just make sure this freaking thing's recording. Okay, good. Alright, so there's a lot of different tips that you guys can use in the Dark Age that you may or may not actually see other players using. I know a lot of times when I was a lower level, I used to watch top level players play, and they kind of do these subtle things that you can't really catch if they don't tell you about it. So, yeah, but so I'll be just showing you guys these tips, and I'm just gonna kind of ramble them off in this video and just do it all kind of in this one game. I'm not going to, do a really nice video where it fades out and then fades into another tip and all that stuff. If you need to if you kind of want to just look at and see what tips are in the video, you can check the description and I'll do like timestamps on all the tips. That way, if you're already familiar with one of the tips, you can just skip it and go to the next one. Uh, so, yeah. But anyways, if you're a lower level player, a lot of these tips are useful in the game and you probably want to use them most, if not like all the time. So yeah, so for the first tip, I'm going to be showing you guys how to find your sheep quickly in a game. A lot of times what people do in a game, especially lower level players, is they're going to queue villagers from the town center, or if they're really noob, they might get loom. And then they'll make a house with these two villas, and then they'll make a house with this villager. That's not right. If you're in a situation like this and you haven't found your sheep already, you want to um, use this extra villager to start scouting for sheep as well. Um, it doesn't really matter, I guess, where you scout. Usually you want to scout in the opposite direction of your scout. You want to scout this way, and then maybe this villager goes this way or something like that. Um, but yeah, you just want to use this villager to scout in general. Sometimes you guess wrong. Sometimes the sheep are going to be like over here, and you went this way, and the scout went this way, and there's not much you can really do. But in other situations, you'll have sheep that are like right here, but you'll scout this whole way around, and by that time, this house will be done, and your sheep are right here. You could have found them by now and brought them in. So, anyways, let me just kind of show you how that's done in the beginning. So, if I just queue up some villagers, build a house, and then I use the villas. Oh, right here, see? If I would have just built a house right away, I might not have found them. I swear to God, I didn't actually know where those are at. So, anyways, you can see that I'm getting the sheep, I'm finding them quickly, and I'm bringing them into the TC. All right, so for the next tip, I'm going to just talk about control groups. So control groups are a really important part of the game. Um, to assign a control group, basically what you're going to do is you're going to hold control and then you're going to press a number. So in this situation, I already hotkeyed my scout to 1. I do that pretty much right in the beginning of the game when I select it. But to change the control group, all you have to do is um, press a different number. So hold control and press a different number. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, even goes up to 9. And then to remove a control group, you just do control 0, and that'll actually remove the control group on the unit. So, yeah. All right. You can also do this with like sheep. I really like to do this with my sheep as well. Some people just like sheep scout, right? And they'll go to their scout, and then they're going to go across the screen again. They'll go to their scout, or they'll even go to the mini map. This is kind of slow, I think, to go to like the mini map every time. I think it's a lot faster just to hotkey each one of your units like this. So you can just basically jump between the units. And what you can do to go to the units is you can either double tap the control group like this, like 1, 1, 3, 3, 4, 4. Or what you can do is there's a hotkey for go to unit, which you can use. So like I use spacebar, so I use 1 space, 3 space, 4 space, and you can just kind of just hop around. You can also do that. You can also use the control groups with the groups of units like this, and then you can also set buildings to um, different hotkeys. You can also actually set Palisade, like even the frames you can set. So I know not many people use this tactic, but like say you were like way across the map, say there's like a really important position on the map and you want to always kind of maintain say you have like vision of it, then what you could do is you can even hotkey a Palisade, which is kind of cool, but I don't think many people use this, but I suppose you could in a game. I don't really know where to use it, but yeah. Anyways, yeah, the control groups are really helpful. And yeah, so use the control groups, get used to using them. They'll really help you improve the speed of your game and improving the speed of your game is really important in terms of trying to get up to like the higher rates. So yeah, and then yeah, when you use it on a building, actually, what happens is when you press the hotkey, it doesn't actually go to the town center unless you press it twice. If you just press it once, it just selects the hotkey or it just selects the building, which is nice because you can set the rally point. Like I could set the rally point all the way over here without having to, it doesn't actually go to the town center. If you don't set the control group, then what you have to do is you have to go basically to your town center using that go to hotkey key, and then you have to like look on the mini map to right click, or like if you're trying to get a real precise location, right? You have to like go over. So say I wanted to go over here, I have to go hotkey all the way over. Instead, I can just do hotkey, hotkey, and there, and just switch it up like that. So like if I have a villager selected, right, I can go to my TC like this, the control group, and then go to wherever I want. So yeah, I guess that kind of covers it for control groups. I'll talk a little bit about control groups later, maybe in like a feudal age tips video, because control groups are really important in the feudal age as well. All right, so on to our next tip, which is going to be about boar blocking. So I'm going to show you guys one thing you can do uh, with, say you have like a boar that's really far. Actually, before we talk about boar blocking, let's talk about Loom. So Loom is basically a technology you get from the TC, and a lot of you guys already know about Loom, but it costs 50 gold, and it basically makes your villager stronger by adding in 15 HP, giving him one more normal armor and two more pierce armor. The downside of Loom is that when you research it, you can't also make villagers, right? So you're basically sacrificing an extra villager in your eco for Loom. Um, which, if you think about it, an extra villager actually villagers gather about 10 resources per 30 seconds. So what happens is if you have an extra villager in your eco for like, say you create a villager um, and uh, say you create a villager instead of getting Loom, well now every 30 seconds or every minute, actually every minute that villager is in your eco before you get Loom is like an extra 20 resources. So um, yeah, I don't know if you guys can understand. That's like a math type thing, right? Um, but yeah, so getting Loom basically it hurts your eco, but it only I guess hurts your eco when you could have gone without it. If you have to get Loom to get like lure boar or something like that, or like you have like a really far wood line and maybe there's like wolves over here or something, right? Then it's probably worth getting. But if your boars are close and you're not really worried about the enemy scouts and stuff like that, especially like on a map like Black Forest or something, if you're like pocket player on Black Forest, you don't really need to get Loom because it's like your villagers aren't going to get attacked by anything usually. So yeah, so delaying Loom is beneficial to your economy, and getting it really early, like 3 minutes into the game, like really hurts your economy in the early game at least. So yeah, so that's kind of Loom in a nutshell. All right. So now I'm going to show you guys how to do a boar block. So here we say your boar's like really far away, or you have like a really low HP villager and you need to make sure that your villager doesn't get attacked. So what we're going to do here is we're going to shoot the boar twice, and then all you simply do is you run a scout in front of the villager, right? You may have to do it a few times if you have a boar that's really far away, right? If you have a board that's really far away, you might have to block it a few times, or if there's like a really, really big hill, like this is a pretty small hill, but if you have like a really big hill, then you may need to block it a few times. Let me find some sheep. Okay, so you can also use sheep as well. I guess I don't know, no, I don't know if I need to really demonstrate this, but you basically can do the same thing with sheep. You do the same thing with villagers. You can basically do the same thing with every unit, right? To block the boars, but it's just something that's really helpful when you have like a far boar and you're trying to like get it back to your base. And yeah. So yeah, and then let me show you guys another thing. So another tip is boar stopping, which is basically something you can do with your villagers in a situation where you're going to like you're gonna lose a vill. So let's see here, 1, 2. All right, so say like our villager gets really low HP, and we need to stop the boar right there. All you do here is before the boar hits your villager, what you want to do is you want to put a building tile. Um, you want to try to build something. It could be a house, it could be a palisade, it could be barracks or something like that. Usually it's going to be a house or palisade because you don't have the wood for barracks in the early Dark Age, but you can use whatever building basically. And if you start trying to build the house on when the boar is on that tile, the boar is going to walk off the tile and then it'll become unaggressive. So it's a little bit risky trying to do it with a palisade. Um, but so you should try using a house if you can. And basically what you want to do is when you start luring the boar back, you want to put the house at like a position on the, you want to place it at a position where like your villager is just beyond the frame of what where the frame would be. So like right here would be perfect because as soon as I click this thing, my villager is basically going to turn around and start trying to build it. Whereas if I put it like right here, the villager still has to walk a little bit of a ways before it actually starts to build it. And sometimes if you try to build it in like a position like this, the villager might actually walk off to the side or something, which might prevent the boar from like walking over it himself. So yeah, it also helps to have the grid mode on when you're trying to do this. If you don't have grid mode on, then it can also be difficult, but with grid, you can actually see where the tiles are, like where the frames or the tiles are at. So it's really easy to do with grid mode on. So, by the way, you can get grid mode in the mod center. So if you don't know where that is, just post something in the comment section and I'll post a link or something. All right, so that's it for the board blocking. So let's move on to the next tip. This tip will be about um, let's do a tip on a quick tip on like whether if you're ever gonna drush in a game. Say we're at the beginning of the game now and we're not here at the 1 hour and 10 minute mark. Say we're at the beginning of the game, right? And for some reason we have a gold. Usually the gold wouldn't be or wouldn't be this far, but it would be a lot closer. Say we used it like in the beginning we had our lone villager and he built a house right here, right? All right, we finished building the house, right? And at this point we know that we might go drush later in the game, and we have a gold mine really close to where we just built this house. What you can do is in the beginning of the game is just take the 10 gold now while your villager is really close to the gold mine rather than send the villager later in the game. This is kind of like a small tip that you can use to um, just kind of help you with the drush build. You don't have to send the villager later. It's more efficient to like get the gold now and like bring it back to your TC than just like walk back and then send a build later in the game to come here, right? So kind of doing those small things like that will really kind of help you. Um, it'll just help you like efficiency wise in the Dark Age, which is really important. Same thing can be said about berries. I mean, if you have two villagers and if you have two villagers building a house here or whatever, right? And they finish building the house and you still haven't found the sheep and you have berries really close here, we'll just send the villagers to berries. Don't send them to like, you don't need to send them to a straggler tree because you don't really need wood really early. You don't need to send them under the TC to idle, right? Just send them into berries. So at least they're doing something, right? They're gathering food or whatever, right? So that's just kind of a quick tip to make sure you're making use of your villagers like position on the map and making sure that you're just being efficient with them. So yeah. All right, the next tip is deer luring, I guess. I'm just kind of going as I see stuff. I see a deer here, so I'm going to show deer luring. So one thing that can really help you in your game, especially in higher rated games, is pushing deer. Most higher rated players already know about pushing deer, so this is kind of for newer players, I guess. It's a newer player tip, but you can push deer by just running a unit behind the deer. And it doesn't work with sheep. You can't push deer with sheep, but um, you can just push them with the scout all the way to town center, and then you can make use of them um, by just like garrisoning your TC and then just shooting them. This will really help. It just like improves your eco, right? You don't have to make farms as early, so it's kind of a nice tip. I would say for lower rated players, get down the other stuff before you start pushing deer. Don't like push deer when you can't do it, right? I would say that pushing deer it can be difficult when you're trying to do other things, especially if you're newer. So just um, make sure you got all the other stuff done first, and then you can push deer like as like an extra bonus if you can actually manage to do it. Um, so yeah, uh, just another kind of quick tip is the pushing the deer. Yeah, okay, and so that's that. All right, another tip is how to steal boars and stuff. So here we're going to show that you can actually steal your opponent's, like assuming this was the enemy's boar and not my own boar, I can show you how to do it. So usually you wouldn't want to have your scout behind the boar, like when you're trying to lure it, because especially when it's downhill like this. But I think if you sometimes when you hit the boar behind it, it doesn't register the hit, and you can actually get 2 free hits and not without losing any damage. So let's see if it works. So here we shot the boar twice already. I don't know. Do we take 2 hits? I think we did actually. So you basically have to hit the boar twice. You have to do damage to the boar twice. And then after you do that, you can just you can just lure the boar around with your scout. As long as you don't run out of the line of sight of the boar will continue to follow the scout, right? And all you need to do here is just kind of keep going back and forth, back and forth. If you go diagonally, it actually kind of helps because the diagonal path is the longer path, but but since the boar always takes the fastest route to your scout, like it maintains the distance it needs. So going back and forth diagonally is actually a really nice way um, to lure the boar. I think it's a lot easier to go diagonally because if you try to go like straight forward, you can see that the scout really starts to outrun the boar quickly, right? Whereas if you go diagonally, like up here, since the boar always takes the fastest path to the scout, you can still see that it doesn't fall behind, right? So if I go diagonally here, look at that. The boar kind of maintains that distance, that really close distance that you want. You gotta be careful that you don't let the boar catch up, because if it does, then it can kill your scout. And this is luring a boar is something that you gotta be careful about when you're newer. I know people want to like steal the boars when they see them, but so basically this is what happens when you run outside the line of sight. Basically stops, and then sometimes it just goes back right away. So, but I know as a newer player, sometimes you want to like go for the boar steal, but I tell you that it's difficult even for top level players to do, especially in lag. So, um, yeah, you got to be careful about stealing boars in actual games. Usually it can mess up your eco because it's tough to go back and forth with a boar when you're trying to manage all your units at home. So that's that tip. Let's see here. What else we got to learn? I don't know. Okay, so here's a tip that a lot of people don't know, even top level players, but um, what you can do is if you see deer like this and you know you're gonna build like a second lumber camp or something like later on here, what you can do is send the vills out to go get the deer, and then you can once the villagers have finished gathering the deer, you can send them here to like build a lumber camp. And basically what happens is anytime that you build a economic building like a mining camp or a mining camp, a lumber camp, or a mill, your villagers are going to drop off the resources. They'll drop off whatever resources they have once the economic building has finished. And this also applies to farms as well. So if you if you make a farm, so like in this situation, well, here, I'll show you right now. When I build this mill, what'll happen is the villagers, oh, I garrison these ones, but you'll see this, what? I thought this villager had wood on him. What the heck? All right, so you see this villager, even if like she's not there when the mill finishes, watch the wood, 154, 156. All right, so here in this situation, we just finished the deer, right? And now we just go to lumber camp. Watch our food. We're basically going to drop off all this food without having to go back to the TC, which is really nice. So watch our food. And it goes up to 230, right? So it's kind of just a really nice tip to use during a game. So most intermediate players know this tip, right? I don't think they would be intermediate if they didn't know it. But actually, when you have deer like this, it usually takes like roughly 2 minutes to gather the deer and then build the lumber camp. So if you are playing in a, if you're playing, I can just keep it going. If you're playing in a game and you're planning on, doing fast feudal, which is basically you're clicking up on like 8 minutes, right? If you send villagers out to get the deer at 6 minutes, then you can basically make use of the deer, and you can make use of the deer before you click up. So you basically send the villagers out at 6 minutes, take the deer, and then right before you're about to click up, you build the lumber camp, right? And then you should have the food to get up. And that's a really good thing to do because you really make use of like you don't have to use as many sheep underneath the TCs, so it'll really help you increase your food eco in the early game. So that's just kind of a good thing to do during the game. Uh, so yeah. Let's see. Do I have cheat codes on here? What's a cheat code? Oh man, I don't have cheat codes on. Rip. So let me just show you guys this. This will probably be like one of the last tips, and then I think I'm gonna cut the video because it's getting kind of long. So if you actually watch the video from start to finish, then leave a comment in the description saying that you watched the whole thing, and kudos to you for doing it. I appreciate it, especially if it really helped you out. Um, Again, I'll be leaving timestamps in the description, so if you want to quickly go back to a certain tip, you'll be able to do that. Let's not go up here. So again, you want to hotkey buildings. That way you can quickly go to them. Otherwise, yeah, it'd be tough. You can also queue units up this way too. Like especially in feudal age, say you hotkey your buildings in feudal age, you don't say you're like you have military forward, right? You don't want to have to always go back to your barracks, right? Especially like if there's like a really intense fight going on and you want to be able to keep looking at it, but you still want to queue units up at the same time. You can just basically press the barracks. Whoops, I still messed up. You can press the barracks and you're still paying attention to like this whole fight here. You're queuing units up and, you know, yeah. Anyways, I don't know if there's any other tips to really show you guys. Right here, here's another tip. You can build palisade walls over straggler trees. So, and then you can just get rid of them. It's a good way to lame your opponents. So if you see on your mini map that opponents have like a bunch of like straggler trees like this around their map, or around their TC or something, just go like that. Just get rid of them for them. Or like sometimes what you'll see in a game is, this is kind of more of an intermediate tip, but so sometimes you'll see people like they will have walls. Like, let me just kind of make a hypothetical wall here. So they'll have this wall like this, right? Which they'll actually have the palisades made, right? And say they have a wall like this as well. Say somebody had a wall like this and you want to get in, right? You can get in by simply, if you send a villager forward, this is pretty like, you can send a villager forward by just, if you're like an enemy and you're trying to break into this guy's base, you just send the vill forward and just go like that and then break in. So that's kind of a cool tip. I've seen it a couple times in pro games and it's pretty funny when it actually works or when it actually happens. But yeah, I don't really know if there's any other tips I can give you guys. I think that pretty much covers it for the feudal age. I guess, um, let me just go back to the control groups really quick here. I just forgot one thing about the control groups that I meant to say. Um, Usually, this is something that a lot of people don't do, or a lot of newer players don't do at least, is one really useful way to use a control group is these villas under the TC. Because a lot of times in Dark Age, you're going to have to force drop food to get to make the next villager, right? It's really important that you hotkey like the first 6 or so villagers underneath their TC. That way you can constantly like say you're looking at your woodline or something. All you have to do here is whoops. All you have to do here is press 2 and then you're already selecting them. You don't have to go like this. Hotkey. It's so much faster just to go, and just drop right away. And it's also useful for like going between sheep. right? If like this sheep is finished, I can just click on the next sheep by going like that, rather than having to go like this, you know? It seems like it's not very helpful, but trust me, it's really helpful. Um, so I would use that, like use the hotkey and yeah. I see you can use I see you can see I use the hotkey here for the Boarville. That way if I'm over here doing something, right? Or if I'm at my TC, right? I can hear the boar getting shot, and then I can just after I hear it get shot twice, I can just click back to the TC, right? I don't actually have to like go and actually manually move the Vil back. So here's another tip. Say you have like one or two hurt Vils underneath the TC with like 1 HP, right? What you want to do here is if you have the villagers put to a control group, you want to press the control group and then hold control to remove the hurt villagers from the control group, and then you can shoot the boar or you can just like reassign the Vils and shoot the boar. So right here, I'll show you really quick. So here we got the Vil, this one's hurt, shoot the boar. Look at this villager right here. It's not shooting the boar. That's good because it's hurt. We don't want the boar to lock onto this guy and kill him, right? So, so yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this. I can't really think of any other tips, and I know if I made this video any longer, no one would ever watch it. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I think that does it for the Dark Age tips. I don't know if there's any other tips I can think about for the Dark Age, but if there's any tips I left out, then please let me know in the comments. And if there's enough of them, I'll make another Dark Age tip video, um, like another part to it. So yeah, otherwise, look forward to seeing my Feudal Age tips video. And I'll also be working on um, extended build orders um, in the upcoming days. All right, thanks for watching, guys. See ya.